Welcome to Warhammer 40k 8th edition Battle Report 33, 2,000 points, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch versus Necrons. This will be the big rulebook Maelstrom of War mission, Contact Lost, and we will be rolling for a random map deployment today. Let's begin by taking a quick look around the board at where the objective markers have been placed. Beginning with this 2 foot by 2 foot section right here, we have objective marker 3 along this edge of the 2 foot by 2 foot section next to this ruin. Within the middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, we have objective marker 6 right here next to this crater. In this third 2 foot by 2 foot section, we have objective marker 4 right here next to this crater. Over on the other side of the board, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, we have objective marker 1 right here next to this building. In this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, we have objective marker 2 right here next to this ruin. And finally, in this sixth 2 foot by 2 foot section, we have objective marker 5 right here next to this ruin. For this battle report, the Necrons will have 8 command points available to them, and the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will have 8 plus D3, thanks to Kairos Fateweaver being their warlord. So here's the roll for the D3, and they get a 2 on the D3, so the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will have 10 command points available total, and the Necrons will have 8 command points available total. And now we will roll for the random map deployment, and here's the roll. Rolling a 2, which is Dawn of War. So on a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will begin to deploy on the left side, and the Necrons will begin to deploy on the right. On a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be the opposite, so Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will begin to deploy on the right side, and the Necrons will begin to deploy on the left. And so here's the roll, rolling another 2, and so the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will begin to deploy on the left side, and the Necrons will deploy on the right. On a 1, 2, or 3, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will begin to deploy first, and on a 4, 5, or 6, the Necrons will begin to deploy first. And here's the roll, rolling a 4, and so the Necrons will begin to deploy first. We will be back after the deployment. So the deployment is now finished. The Necrons began to deploy first, and they also finished deploying first, which means that they will go first unless the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are able to successfully seize the initiative. Let's take a quick look around the board at where each army placed all of their units, beginning with the Necrons. Going from right to left, from Tzeentch's perspective, we begin with the first Ghost Ark, which has a squad of 10 Necron warriors embarked inside. The first Night Scythe. And when this Night Scythe was set up, both the Necron Overlord, which is their warlord, and the squad of 10 Immortals were placed on the Tomb World. The Cryptek sitting on objective marker 1. A squad of 10 Necron warriors sitting on objective marker 2. The squad of 6 Canoptic Wraiths. The second Ghost Ark with a squad of 10 Necron warriors embarked inside. The first Annihilation Barge. The second Annihilation Barge. And finally, the second Night Scythe. Now moving over to the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch deployment, going from left to right from the Necrons' perspective, we have the first squad of 10 Pink Horrors. This squad has the Demonic Icon and the Instrument. The Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe. The first Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings, armed with 2 sets of Malefic Talons. The Lord of Change armed with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff. The second squad of 10 Pink Horrors set up on objective marker 6. The first squad of 6 Screamers, the third squad of 10 Pink Horrors sitting on objective marker 3, the Warlord Kairos Fateweaver, the second Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings armed with 2 sets of Malefic Talons, and finally the second squad of 6 Screamers. If you wish to check out both armies in full with all war gear that they are bringing, please check out the pregame show that was published at the beginning of this group. The link for the pregame will be in the description down below. Now we will roll to see if the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are able to successfully seize the initiative, and they are looking for 6, and they fail by rolling a 2. So let's move into Necrons Turn 1. Going into Necrons Turn 1, a reminder that the Necrons have 8 command points available, and the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have 10 command points available. Because this is the big rulebook, Maelstrom of War mission, Contact Lost, at the beginning of their first player turn, each army will draw 1 new tactical objective card, and then at the beginning of player turn 2 and up, each army will draw a number of new objective cards based off of how many objective markers they are currently holding at the beginning of each of their player turns. So the Necrons begin by drawing priority orders received. When this tactical objective is generated, immediately generate a bonus tactical objective. This does not count toward the number of active tactical objectives you currently have in play. Your Warlord is the only unit that can be used to achieve the bonus tactical objective. They must be the only unit used to control an objective marker, the unit that destroys the last model in an enemy unit, and so on. If you achieve this, you score both the number of victory points stated on the bonus tactical objective and an additional 3 victory points. If this tactical objective is discarded, so too is the bonus tactical objective. And the bonus tactical objective is Reclaim and Recapture. Roll a d6 when this tactical objective is generated. If the result is an odd number, score d3 victory points if you control all 3 odd-numbered objective markers at the end of this turn. If the result is an even number, score d3 victory points if you control all 3 even-numbered objective markers at the end of this turn. And so here's the dice roll. Rolling a 6, which means that they will score d3 victory points if they control all 3 even-numbered objective markers, but because only the Warlord can actually complete this objective card because of priority orders received, this is an impossible objective card to achieve. So going into the movement phase, for Necrons Turn 1, this Ghost Ark is going to move up the board just a couple of inches, and it will finish its movement right here. This Cryptek will remain still. This squad of Necron warriors sitting on objective marker 2 are going to move up the board up to 5 inches, and they will finish their movement like so. This squad of Canoptic Wraiths are going to move up the board up to 12 inches, and they will also declare an advance. And here's their advance roll, rolling 1 additional inch for up to 13 inches of total movement, but the Necrons are going to spend 1 command point going from 8 down to 7 for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll, rolling 3 additional inches of advance instead of 1 for up to 15 inches of total movement. And the Canoptic Wraiths will finish their movement like so. And the Necrons are now going to use the stratagem Adaptive Subroutines for 1 command point, bring them from 7 down to 6. Use this stratagem after a Canoptic unit from your army has advanced. That unit can still shoot and or charge this turn, and this will be used on the Canoptic Wraiths. This Ghost Ark is now going to move up to 12 inches up the board, and it will finish its movement right here, right behind the Canoptic Wraiths. The Silver Annihilation Barge is now going to move a few inches up the board in order to get within 3 inches of the center of objective marker 5, and it will finish its movement right here. A reminder that Annihilation Barges measure all distances to and from their base, not their hull, and so the fact that it is facing backwards means nothing when it comes to shooting and or charging or being charged. The Black Annihilation Barge will now do the exact same thing, moving up the board a few inches to get within 3 inches of the center of objective marker 5, and it will finish its movement like so. Next, the Silver Knight Scythe is going to pivot up to 90 degrees to its right, and it will move up the board at least 20 inches, but no more than 60, and it will finish its movement right there. Finally, the Black Knight Scythe will pivot up to 90 degrees to its left and move up the board at least 20 inches, but no more than 60, and it will finish its movement right here. Going into the shooting phase, for Necrons Turn 1, we will begin with this squad of 10 Necron warriors who will fire everything that they have into this squad of 10 pink horrors. Thanks to the movement from the Necron warriors, all 10 of the Necron warriors are just within 24-inch range of the pink horrors. 10 shots from their gauze flares, hitting on 3s, getting 7 hits. Strength 4 versus toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. 4 4 up and vulnerable saves, failing all 4. So 4 regular pink horrors will go down, leaving 6 left alive in the squad. And now the Necrons will use the stratagem Methodical Destruction for 2 command points, bring them from 6 down to 4. Use this stratagem after a Sawtech unit from your army has inflicted an unsaved wound on an enemy unit. Add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Sawtech units that target the same enemy unit this phase. Obviously, this will be placed onto that squad of pink horrors. Next, the Black Knight Scythe will fire everything that it has into the squad of 6 pink horrors. 8 shots from the 2 Tesla Destructors, hitting on 2s, getting an absolutely horrible hit roll, getting only 4 hits. But thanks to +1 to hit rolls, 5s now activate Tesla as well, so actually getting 6 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 6 wounds. 6 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 4. So 4 more regular pink horrors will go down, leaving 2 left alive in the squad. So now this Ghost Ark will fire everything that it has into the squad of 2 pink horrors. 10 shots with the 2 Gauze Flare arrays, hitting on 2s, getting 8 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 3 and failing 1. So 1 more regular pink horror will go down, leaving just the iridescent horror alive in the squad. Now this might be a waste, but because there is a stratagem that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch could use in order to automatically pass a morale check, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch can make sure that that lone iridescent horror will not be killed off in the morale phase, so Necrons are going to have to waste the firepower and have this Night Scythe, the second one, fire everything that it has into this lone iridescent horror. 8 shots from the 2 Tesla Destructors, hitting on 2s, getting a much better hit with 7 hits. However, thanks to the +1 to hit rolls, both 5s and 6s activate Tesla, and there are 5 5s and 6s, which means we actually get 17 hits out of 8 attacks. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 15 wounds. 15 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 7 but failing 8. So the iridescent horror will be killed off, which does mean that that entire 10-man pink horror squad is wiped out, and that will be first blood for the Necrons. This Ghost Ark will now fire everything that it has into this Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. 10 shots with the 2 Gauze Flare arrays, hitting on 3s, getting 7 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. 1 3 up and vulnerable save, which fails. So the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 15. Next, this Black Annihilation Barge will fire everything that he has into this squad of 6 Screamers. Starting with the Gauze Cannon, 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, hitting 2 wounds. 2 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it does D3 damage, so here's the damage, doing 3 damage, which will not carry over from model to model, but because Screamers have 2 wounds apiece, it means that 1 Screamer will be fully killed off. Now for 8 shots from the twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 3s, getting 7 hits, with 4 of them being 6s. So thanks to the 4 Tesla shots, getting 15 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 10 wounds. 10 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 5 and failing 5. So 2 Screamers will be fully killed off, and 1 more will fall from 2 wounds down to 1. Finally, the Silver Annihilation Barge will fire everything that he has into the squad of 3 Screamers. And this time we will start with the 8 shots from the twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 3s, getting 6 hits, but 2 of them are Tesla, so getting 10 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 6 wounds. 6 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing all 6. And now for the 3 shots from the Gauze Cannon, hitting on 3s, getting getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. 1 4-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it does D3 damage, but that doesn't matter because there is a Wounded Screamer down to just 1 wound, so the Wounded Screamer will be removed. Going into the assault phase for Necrons turn 1, there is 1 charge to declare, which will be the squad of 6 Canoptic Wraiths, declaring a charge onto the squad of 6 Screamers in front of them. No Overwatch, so here's the charge range. Getting 10 inches, and the closest Canoptic Wraith to the closest Screamer is just over 10 inches away and does not have to charge through Crater, so they will be able to make it within an inch, and therefore they will make it into combat. And so they finished their charge like so. Now going into the fight phase, we will have the Canoptic Wraiths pile in up to 3 inches. And the Wraiths will finish their pile in like so, and now they will all be able to fight. However, at the beginning of the fight phase, before we do anything else, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to use the stratagem Warp Surge for 2 command points, bring them from 10 down to 8. Use this stratagem at the start of any phase, select a unit of demons until the end of the phase. You cannot reroll saving throws for this unit, but its invulnerable save is improved by 1 to a maximum of 3 up. And obviously this will be placed onto the Screamers, so they will have a 3 up invulnerable save. We also need to resolve Locus of Trickery since they are within 6 inches of Kairos Fateweaver, so rolling 2 dice, taking away the highest, and it will not matter, only getting a 2, meaning hit rolls of 2 will not count, but the Canoptic Wraiths only have a weapon skill of 3 up anyways. So, beginning with the attacks from the Canoptic Wraiths onto the Screamers, 3 attacks apiece means 18 attacks total with their Vicious Claws, hitting on 3s, so getting a total of 12 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds out of 12 hits when wounding on 3s or higher. 4 3-up invulnerable saves, passing 3 and 1 cocked dice. And here's the reroll on the cocked dice, and it passes, so all 4 are saved. All 6 Screamers are already within an inch of an enemy model, and so all 6 will be able to fight without piling in. They also have 3 attacks apiece for 18 attacks total with their Lamprey Bites. Hitting on 4s. Getting 10 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s. Getting 6 wounds. 6 3-up invulnerable saves. Passing 4 but failing 2, and they are 2 damage apiece. Canoptic Wraiths only have 3 wounds apiece, but the damage does not carry over from model to model, so only 1 Canoptic Wraith is killed off, and the Screamers will not consolidate. Going into the morale phase for Necrons turn 1, this squad of Screamers lost 4 models this turn. However, they are within 6 inches of Kairos Fateweaver, who is a greater demon, which means they can use his leadership of 10, and therefore, even though they lost 4 models this turn, it is impossible for them to fail their morale check. This squad of Canoptic Wraiths lost 1 model this turn. However, they have a leadership of 10, and therefore it is impossible for them to fail after only losing 1 model. So taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Necrons failed to complete priority orders received, reclaim and recapture the even objective markers, and as mentioned at the beginning of the turn, because that is impossible, because the Overlord would have to control multiple objective markers on his own, which is impossible. The unit is only allowed to control 1 objective marker at a time, and therefore they will throw this one away, since it's impossible to achieve. And so at the end of Necrons turn 1, we currently have a score of 1 victory point for the Necrons, thanks to First Blood, and 0 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch. Going into Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 1, a reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have 8 command points available, and the Necrons have 4 command points available. So at the beginning of their turn, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch drew 1 new tactical objective card, which is Hold the Line. Score 1 victory point if you have at least 3 units completely within your deployment zone, and your opponent has no models within your deployment zone at the end of your turn. This objective cannot be achieved on your first turn. So going into the movement phase, for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 1, this Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff is going to move up to 12 inches over towards objective marker 6 and the Night Scythe and the Canoptic Wraiths. And it will finish its movement right here, about 1.5 inches away from the Black Night Scythe. Next, this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings is going to move up to 12 inches over on the board towards the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. And it will finish its movement right here, just under 7 inches away from the Black Knight Scythe. Next, the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe is going to move up to 12 inches up the board. And it will finish its movement right here. The Lord of Change with Baleful Sword is just over 11 inches away from the hull of the Ghost Ark across the board from it. This squad of Pink Horrors is now going to move up the board up to 6 inches. They will not advance, and they will do this in order to get within 3 inches of the center of objective marker 4. And they will finish their movement like so. The Iridescent Horror is just within 18 inches of the Ghost Ark. This squad of Screamers will remain locked in combat with the Canoptic Wraiths. This squad of Pink Horrors sitting on objective marker 3 will remain still. This Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings is going to move up to 12 inches over on the board to get closer to the Canoptic Wraiths. And it will finish right here, about 1.5 inches away from the Canoptic Wraiths. Kairos Fateweaver is now going to move up to 12 inches over on the board to get closer to the Canoptic Wraiths. And Kairos Fateweaver will end up right here, just over 1 inch away from the Canoptic Wraiths. Unfortunately, his base is technically touching a crater, so he will count as charging through a crater, just like the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings. Finally, these two Screamers are going to move up to 16 inches up the board, and they will finish their movement like so. Going into the Psychic phase, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to start off by using the stratagem Locus of Conjuration for 2 command points, going from 8 down to 6. Use this stratagem at the start of your Psychic phase, select a Tzeentch demon character from your army. Until the end of the phase, you can re-roll any failed Psychic test made for friendly Tzeentch demon units within 6 inches of this model. And this stratagem will be placed onto the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe, which means it will also affect the squad of Pink Horrors next to him. And so we will begin with this squad of Pink Horrors attempting to manifest Smite from the Iridescent Horror onto this Ghost Ark. Only using 1 dice, so looking for a 5 or a 6, and they fail, but they get to re-roll thanks to the stratagem from the Lord of Change. And so here's the re-roll, and they do get it with a 5. Because there are 10 Pink Horrors in the squad, it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So the Ghost Ark will fall from 14 starting wounds down to 12. Next, this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings will attempt to manifest Smite onto this Black Knight Scythe, since it is the closest enemy unit within 18 inches and also visible. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 6, and it passes with a 6. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. So the Black Knight Scythe will fall from 12 starting wounds down to 9. Next, this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Canoptic Wraiths. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 7, and it passes with a 7. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. And the Canoptic Wraiths have 3 wounds apiece, so it will kill off this one right here, closest to the Demon Prince. And of course, when the model was removed, everyone fell over. So I tried to put people back in their original spots. But if they look like they're in a different position, that's why. Next, Kairos Fateweaver will attempt to manifest Gaze of Fate. He will then attempt to manifest Boon of Change onto himself, and then he will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Canoptic Wraiths. Beginning with Gaze of Fate, which has a warp charge value of 6, and it passes with an 8, and actually a 10 thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus. So Tzeentch will get 1 free reroll later this turn. Second, he will do Boon of Change onto himself, which has a warp charge value of 7, and it passes with an 8 thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus. So it will go off, and rolling a D3 on the table, rolling a 3 on the table, which is Iron Skin, +1 toughness. So until the start of the next Chaos Demon of Tzeentch Psychic phase, Kairos Fateweaver will have a toughness of 8 instead of 7. And finally, Smite onto the Canoptic Wraiths, which now has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with an 8 thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus. And so it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do just 1 mortal wound. But the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to use 1 command point, going from 6 down to 5, for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And so here's the reroll, still only rolling a 1 on the D3, so 1 mortal wound. So this one over here on the edge will fall from 3 starting wounds down to 2. Next, the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff will attempt to manifest Smite and Bolt of Change onto the Black Knight Scythe. Starting with Smite, which now has a warp charge value of 9, and it goes off with a 9 thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus and +1 from the Everstaff. So +3 total, getting a 9. But this means it'll do just D3 mortal wounds, but it will do 3 mortal wounds. So the Black Knight Scythe will fall from 9 wounds down to 6. Bolt of Change has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with a 10 thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus. The +1 from the Everstav is only for Smite. So another D3 mortal wounds, and it will do another 3 mortal wounds. So the Black Knight Scythe will fall from 6 wounds down to 3 left. Finally, Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe is going to cast both Smite and Infernal Gateway onto the black Ghost Arc in front of it. Starting with Smite, which now is a warp charge value of 10, and it fails with the 6, thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus, but luckily, thanks to the Stratagem, Locus of Conjuration, they get to reroll. And here's the reroll, and now it goes off with the 10 thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus. So D3 mortal wounds, and of course, it will do 3 mortal wounds. So this Ghost Arc will fall from 12 wounds down to 9. And now for Infernal Gateway, which has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with an 11, thanks to the +2 from the Psychic Test bonus. So another D3 mortal wounds, which will do just 2 mortal wounds. So the Ghost Arc will fall from 9 wounds down to 7. Going into the shooting phase, only the Iridescent Horror is within 18-inch range, so he will fire his Coruscating Flames into this Ghost Arc. 2 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits. Strength 3 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 6s, failing to wound. Going into the assault phase, we have multiple charges to declare. First and foremost is the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe, declaring a charge onto the Black Ghost Arc. And he will need to roll an 11 or higher in order to make it within an inch. This Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings will declare a charge onto the Black Knight Scythe, and the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstav will also declare a charge onto the Black Knight Scythe. Kairos Fateweaver will declare a charge into the Canoptic Wraiths. The second Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings will also declare a charge into the Canoptic Wraiths. And finally, this squad of 2 Screamers will declare a charge into the Black Annihilation Barge, and we will resolve the chargers in reverse order, beginning with a squad of 2 Screamers. So beginning with the Overwatch from the Gauze Cannon from the Annihilation Barge, 3 shots hitting on 6s, failing to hit. 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 6s, getting 7 misses and 1 cocked dice. So here's the reroll on the cocked dice, still failing to hit, so no hits. And now here's the charge range from the Screamers, getting 7 inches. More than enough. In order to fit the Screamers in, I turned the hull from the Annihilation Barge around, which doesn't actually matter because all that matters is the base. The base stayed in the exact same spot, and now both of the Screamers are within an inch of the Black Annihilation Barge. They made sure to stay over an inch away from the Silver Annihilation Barge, and both Screamers are within 3 inches of the center of Objective Marker 5. So currently they are contesting that objective marker. So now we will resolve this Demon Prince of Tzeentch charging into the Canoptic Wraiths. And he is charging through a crater, rolling 6 inches, subtracting 2, 4 inches will be more than enough. So the Demon Prince made it into combat, but everyone fell over again, so we will move people around as necessary. Now Kairos Fateweaver will charge in. He is also charging through a crater, no Overwatch. And here's his charge range. Rolling double 1s, and because he's charging through a crater, he fails. So, because of that, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to use their 1 free reroll thanks to Gaze of Fate and reroll one of the 1s. And here's the reroll, rolling a 2, so he will make it in because he was just over an inch away, and he only needs to get within an inch. So Kairos Fateweaver will make it in. So now Kairos Fateweaver is locked in combat. Next, we will resolve this Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery charging into the Night Scythe. 8 shots from the 2 Tesla Destructors hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit, but thanks to Tesla actually getting 3 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds. 3 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstav will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 15. And here's the charge range. Not that it actually matters because he's just over an inch away, about an inch and a half, so he was automatically going to make it in, but he gets 8 inches of charge. And he will finish his charge like so. Now this Demon Prince of Tzeentch will charge into the Night Scythe. And here's the charge range, getting 7 inches, which is enough to make it into combat. Finally, we will resolve the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe, charging into the Ghost Arc. Beginning with Overwatch, 20 shots from the 2 Gauze Flare Arrays, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on a 5, and it fails to wound anyways. Now for charge, needing an 11 or higher, rolling a 6. And the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to use 1 command point for a command reroll going from 5 down to 4 to reroll the 1. If this rolls a 6, he will make it into combat, and he fails with a 7. Going into the fight phase, we first need to resolve Locus of Trickery, rolling 2 dice, taking away the highest. So hit rolls of 2 will not count, which does not matter. So we will begin with the Demon Prince of Tzeentch over here, placing all of his attacks onto the Canoptic Rays. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, thanks to himself, getting 5 hits and 2 re-rolls. And here's the 2 re-rolls, getting 7 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds. 5, 3 up and vulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 3. And they are 2 damage apiece, so the first strike will finish off the wounded Canoptic Wraith, and the second and third strike will finish off 1 more fully healthy Canoptic Wraith. The damage cannot carry over, so the 1 extra damage is wasted. So now the Necrons are going to use the stratagem counteroffensive for 2 command points, bring them from 4 down to 2. This stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that charged the spot. Select one of your own eligible units and fight with the next, and this will be used on the squad of Canoptic Wraiths. And the 2 remaining Canoptic Rays will place all of their attacks onto the Screamers. 3 attacks apiece for 6 attacks total with their Vicious Claws, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. 3, 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 2. So 2 Screamers will go down, as they are 2 damage apiece. Now going back over to charging units, Kairos Fateweaver will place his attacks onto the 2 remaining Canoptic Raids. 5 attacks base with the Staff of Tomorrow, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 4 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 5th hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. 3, 3 up and vulnerable saves, passing all 3. Now the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery will place all of his attacks onto the Black Knight Scythe. 5 attacks with the Staff of Tzeentch, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 4 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 5th hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 2 5-up armor saves, failing both. And they are 3 damage apiece, so that will finish off the Night Scythe because it has no quantum shielding. So does it crash and burn on a 6? And it will. So both the Lord of Change with the Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff, and the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings will suffer D3 mortal wounds apiece. So starting with the Lord of Change, so the Lord of Change will suffer 3 mortal wounds, and the Demon Prince will suffer just 1. So the Lord of Change will fall from 15 wounds down to 12, and the Demon Prince will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 7. And so then the Night Scythe is removed. Also, the Lord of Change, right here, consolidated about an inch, just to reposition a little bit. Finally, from the charging units, this squad of Screamers will place their attacks onto the Black Annihilation Barge. 3 attacks apiece for 6 attacks total with their Lamprey Bites, hitting on 4s, getting 4 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP means no armor save for the Annihilation Barge. They are 2 damage apiece, so the Annihilation Barge will get a chance to ignore thanks to quantum shielding on rolls of 1 and fails with both. So this Annihilation Barge will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 4. Now going into units that did not charge, starting with the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch, who just have 1 unit that was already locked in combat. The squad of 4 Screamers will all place their attacks onto the Canoptic Wraiths. 12 attacks from their Lamprey Bites, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 8 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 9th hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds. 5, 3 up and vulnerable saves, passing 3 and failing 2. 2 damage apiece, so 1 Canoptic Wraith is finished off. Finally, this Annihilation Barge will hit back against the Screamers. 3 attacks hitting on 6s, failing to hit. Going into the morale phase, this squad of Screamers lost 2 models this turn, and they have a leadership of 7. However, thanks to being within 6 inches of a greater demon, they can use the leadership of 10, which means it is impossible for them to fail. This squad of Canoptic Wraiths lost 4 models this turn. However, since they have a leadership of 10, it is impossible for them to fail a morale check after only losing 4 models. So taking a look at the tactical objective cards, because this is their first turn, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch failed to complete Hold the Line, because you're not allowed to complete that in your first turn, but they will hold on to it. So at the end of Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 1, the score currently sits at 0 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch and 1 victory point for the Necrons. Going into Necrons turn 2, a reminder that the Necrons have 2 command points available, and the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have 4 command points available. Currently, the Necrons are holding 2 objective markers, thanks to a third being contested by the squad of 2 Screamers, and so they drew 2 new tactical objective cards, beginning with Secure Objective 1, score 1 victory point if you control Objective Marker 1 at the end of your turn, and Area Denial, score 1 victory point if there are no enemy models within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield at the end of your turn. If there are no enemy models within 12 inches of the center of the battlefield at the end of your turn, score D3 victory points instead. And Objective Marker 1 is right here, currently being held by a Cryptek. At the beginning of the turn, thanks to Living Metal, this Ghost Ark will go back up from 7 wounds to 8. Also at the beginning of the turn, once again thanks to Living Metal, this Annihilation Barge will go back up from 4 wounds to 5. So going into the movement phase, this Cryptek will remain still. This squad of 10 Necron warriors will also remain still. This Ghost Ark will have the squad of 10 Necron warriors inside disembark out the front, and they will all disembark like so. And now the squad of 10 Necron warriors that just disembarked will move up the board up to 5 inches, and they will finish their movement like so. Now the Ghost Ark, even though he's back up to 8 wounds, which means he could move up to 12 inches, will move up just a few inches to stay right behind the Necron warriors, and it will finish its movement like so. Next, this night side that's going to have the squad of 10 Immortals embarked on the Tomb World disembark out in front, and they will finish like so. Now, the Immortals will move up the board up to 5 inches, and they will finish their movement like so. Next, this night side is going to pivot up to 90 degrees to its right and fly up the board at least 20 inches but no more than 60, and it will fly right over to there. This Silver Annihilation Barge will remain still. This Black Annihilation Barge will fall back out of combat an inch or 2, right to there. This Ghost Ark will have the squad of 10 Necron warriors embarked inside disembark out in front. And in order to make it easier to set up, we will have the warriors move up to 5 inches as well right away. And the warriors will finish up like so, thanks to the crater. They are all on top of each other and all extremely wobbly, but every single model is within 8 inches of the hull of the Ghost Ark, which means that they all moved an appropriate distance because you disembark within 3 inches and then they can move up to 5 more after the disembarkation is over. So they are all in proper position and all over an inch away from any enemy models. And now the Ghost Ark will move up the board up to 12 inches total. And it will finish its movement like so, making sure to keep its hull over an inch away from any enemy models. Finally, this lone Cryptek is going to fall back out of combat. And so it will fall back up to 12 inches over to here. Going into the shooting phase for Necrons turn 2, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to use the stratagem Warp Surge for 2 command points, bring them from 4 down to 2. Use this stratagem at the start of any phase, select a unit of demons until the end of the phase. You cannot reroll saving throws for this unit, but its invulnerable save is improved by 1 to a maximum of 3 up, and this will be placed onto the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff. So we will begin with the Silver Annihilation Barge, which will fire everything that it has into the squad of 2 Screamers. Starting with 3 shots from the Gauss Cannon, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. 2 4-up invulnerable saves, failing both. And they are D3 damage apiece, so this will have to be done separately. First shot will do 2 damage, which will kill off the first Screamer, and the second shot will also do D3, which will do another 2, which will finish off the second Screamer. So both Screamers will be finished off. And this will mean that the twin Tesla Destructor on the Silver Annihilation Barge will go to waste. The Black Annihilation Barge will now fire everything that it has into this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings because it is a little bit closer to the base of the Annihilation Barge than Kairos Fateweaver is. Starting with 3 shots from the Gauss Cannon, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP means 2 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it will do D3 damage, so it will do 2 damage. So the Demons of Tzeentch will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 6. 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 3s. Getting 5 hits, but 2 of them are Tesla, so getting 9 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s. Getting 9 wounds. No AP, so 9 3-up armor saves. Passing 5 and failing 4. So the Demons of Tzeentch will fall from 6 wounds down to 2. And now the Silver Night Scythe will fire everything that it has into this Demons of Tzeentch with wings. 8 shots from the 2 Tesla Destructors, hitting on 3s, getting 6 hits. But one of them is a Tesla, so getting 8 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, getting 6 wounds. No AP, so 6 3-up armor saves, passing 5 and failing 1. So this Demon Prince will fall from 2 wounds down to 1 left. Next, this squad of 10 Immortals will fire everything that they have into the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. And all but 1 are within rapid fire range. 19 shots with their Gauze Blasters, hitting on 3s, getting 12 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds. 3-up invulnerable saves, passing 2 but failing 1. So the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstab will fall from 12 wounds down to 11. And now the Necrons will use the stratagem Methodical Destruction for 2 command points, bring them from 2 down to 0. Use this stratagem after a Sawtech unit from your army has inflicted an unsafe wound on an enemy unit. Add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Sawtech units that target the same enemy unit this phase, and this will be placed onto the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. So this squad of 10 Necron warriors will fire next into the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. They are all within 24 inches, but not within 12. So 10 shots from the Gauze Flares, hitting on 2s, which really did not help at all. Getting 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. 1 3-up invulnerable save, which passes. Now, this squad of 10 Necron warriors will fire everything that they have into the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. They all are within 12-inch rapid fire range. 20 shots, hitting on 2s, getting 17 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 7 wounds. 7 3-up invulnerable saves, passing 5 and failing 2. So the Lord of Change will fall from 11 wounds down to 9. Next, this Ghost Ark will fire everything that he has into the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. 20 shots, hitting on 2s, getting 15 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 5 wounds. 5 3-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 but failing 4. So the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery will fall from 9 wounds down to 5. Next, this Ghost Ark will fire everything that it has into the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. 20 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 13 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds. 3-up invulnerable saves, failing all 3. So the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will fall from 15 wounds down to 12. Finally, this squad of disembarked Necron warriors will fire everything that they have into the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. 20 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 13 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 5 wounds. 5 3-up invulnerable saves, passing 3 and failing 2. So the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will fall from 12 wounds down to 10. Going into the assault phase for Necrons Turn 2, there are 2 charges to declare. First is that this squad of 10 Necron warriors will declare a charge into the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. And the second charge is that this Silver Ghost Ark will charge purely into the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings, who is down to 1 wound, and we will resolve the Ghost Ark's charge first. And he is charging through a crater, but he rolls 8 inches, so subtracting 2, getting 6 inches total of charge. And that will be enough, twisting himself around like so to make it into combat with the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings, and making sure to stay at least over an inch away from any other enemy models. And now the warriors will charge into the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. No Overwatch, so here's the charge range, getting 7 inches. So the warriors made it in, and they are all now locked into combat. So going into the fight phase, we will first start with a Locus of Trickery from Tzeentch, rolling 2 dice, taking away the highest, so hit rolls of 4 will not count. And we will begin with Ghost Ark into the Demon Prince. 3 attacks base, hitting on 6s, and failing to hit. Now for the 10 Necron warriors, onto the Lord of Change. 1 attack piece for 10 attacks total, hitting on 3s. Getting a very poor 4 hits, but of course 4s don't count thanks to Locus of Trickery, so actually only getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds, 2 3-up invulnerable saves, and failing both. Of course. So the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will fall from 10 wounds down to 8. Now that all charging units are done, we will have the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword attack back onto the warriors. So the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will now place his attacks back onto the Necron warriors. He will use the Staff of Tzeentch and not the Baleful Sword, because either way he'll be wounding on 3s. Because he's been dropped down to 8 wounds, he only has 4 attack space instead of 5, so 4 attacks with the Staff of Tzeentch, hitting on 2s, getting 3 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 2 AP means 2 6-up armor saves, and failing both. So 2 Necron warriors are killed off. And now for the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings to attack back onto the Ghost Ark. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 6 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 7th hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, getting a bad wound roll and only 3 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 3 6-up armor saves, passing 1. But they are 2 damage piece, so Quantum Shielding can ignore on rolls of 1, and failing to ignore both, so that is 4 damage that goes through. So this Ghost Ark will fall from 14 starting wounds down to 10. And going into the morale phase, this squad of Necron warriors lost 2 models this turn. However, since they have a leadership of 10, it is impossible for them to fail a morale check after only losing 2 models. So now taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Necrons did successfully secure Objective 1, thanks to the Cryptek for 1 victory point. And also, the Necrons did successfully complete area denial for 1 victory point, as there are no enemy units within 6 inches of the center of the board. Unfortunately, the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery is within 12, so they will not be able to get the D3. And so at the end of Necrons Turn 2, we currently have a score of 3 victory points for the Necrons and 0 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch. Going into Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Turn 2, a reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have 2 command points available, and the Necrons have 0 command points available. A reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch held on to the tactical objective card Hold the Line from the previous turn, and thanks to holding 2 objective markers at the beginning of this turn, with a 3rd being contested thanks to the Canoptic Wraith, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch drew 2 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Mission Critical Objective. When this tactical objective is generated, roll a d6, score 1 victory point if you control the corresponding objective marker. If the corresponding objective marker was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn and you control it at the end of your turn, score d3 victory points instead. And here's the roll for the objective marker, and it will be objective marker 4. And defend objective 6, score 2 victory points if you control objective marker 6 at the end of 2 consecutive turns. And objective marker 4 is this one right here, currently being held by a squad of Pink Horrors. And objective marker 6 is this one right here, currently being contested by a Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and a Canoptic Wraith. Going into the movement phase for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Turn 2, this Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe is going to fall back out of combat, and he will move up the board up to 8 inches. And he will finish his movement right here, just over an inch away from the warriors, and about 2 inches away from the hull of the Ghost Ark. Next, this squad of Pink Horrors is going to move up to 6 inches up the board. And and they will finish their movement like so, making sure to stay over an inch away from any enemy models. This Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings is going to move up to 12 inches up the board, and he will finish his movement like so, making sure to stay just over an inch away from any enemy models. This Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery is going to reposition a few inches over in this direction, and he will finish his movement like so, making sure to stay over an inch away from any enemy models. This Demon Prince of Tzeentch, who is down to 1 wound, is going to fall back out of combat with the Ghost Arc up to 12 inches, and he will fall back to here. Kairos Fateweaver is going to move up to 12 inches up the board, and he will finish his movement like so. Next, this squad of 4 Screamers are going to move up the board up to 16 inches, and they will finish their movement like so, over an inch away from any enemy models. Finally, this squad of Pink Horrors are going to reposition slightly, and they will finish their movement like so. Going into the Psychic phase, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch will begin by using the stratagem Locus of Conjuration for 2 command points, bring them from 2 down to 0. Use this stratagem at the start of your Psychic phase, select a Tzeentch demon character from your army. Until the end of the phase, you can re-roll any failed Psychic test made for friendly Tzeentch demon units within 6 inches of that model. And this will be placed onto the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword, which will mean that it will affect both him and the squad of 10 Pink Horrors within 6 inches. So we will begin with this squad of 10 Pink Horrors attempting to manifest Smite onto the squad of Necron Warriors. And the Pink Horrors only roll 1 dice looking for a 5 or 6, and they pass with a 5. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So 2 Necron Warriors will go down. Next, the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings, who is down to 1 wound, will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Canoptic Wraith. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 6, and it passes with an 8. And so it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it does 3 mortal wounds, which will kill off the Wraith. So this Wraith will be removed, and that squad is wiped out. So now this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings will attempt to manifest Smite onto the squad of Immortals in front of him. Smite now has a warp charge value of 7, and it passes with a 7. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2. So 2 Immortals will be killed off. Next, this Lord of Change with the Rod of Sorcery will attempt to manifest Flickering Flames onto this squad of Pink Horrors, and he will attempt to manifest Smite onto the squad of Immortals because they are the closest enemy unit within 18 inches and also visible. Although this Lord of Change, thanks to the Rod of Sorcery, has a smite range of 30 inches, but either way, the Immortals are the closest enemy unit and visible. Beginning with Flickering Flames, which has a warp charge value of 5, and it passes with a 5. It actually passes with a 6, thanks to +1 from the Psychic test bonus. Either way it passes, so those Pink Horrors will get to add 1 to wound rolls in the shooting phase. Now for Smite, which now has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with a 9, thanks to +1 from Psychic test bonus and +1 from the Everstaff. So D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So 2 more Immortals will go down. Next, Kairos Fateweaver will attempt to manifest Boon of Change onto the squad of 4 Screamers, and then he will attempt to manifest both Bolt of Change and Smite onto the squad of 10 Necron Warriors, since they are the closest enemy unit, which only matters for Smite, but he will still fire both offensive psychic powers onto the Warriors. So starting with Smite, which now has a warp charge value of 9, and it passes with a 12, thanks to +2 from the Psychic test bonus. And so it will do D6 mortal wounds, and it will do 5 mortal wounds. So 5 Necron Warriors will be killed off. Now for Bolt of Change, which has a warp charge value of 8. And it passed with an 11, thanks to +2 from the Psychic test bonus. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So 2 more Necron Warriors will be killed off. Finally, Boon of Change, which has a warp charge value of 7, and it passes with a 9. So rolling a D3 on the table, rolling a 3, which is Iron Skin +1 toughness, so until the start of the next Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Psychic phase, those Screamers will have +1 toughness, which will mean that they will have a toughness of 5 instead of 4. Finally, this Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe is only going to attempt to manifest 1 psychic power this turn instead of 2. We will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Necron Warriors since they are the closest enemy unit to him. And so Smite now has a warp charge value of 10, 10, and it fails with the double 1, so it perils. But thanks to the stratagem Locus of Conjuration, the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will get to reroll. So here's the reroll, getting an 8 thanks to +1 from the Psychic Test bonus, but no perils, so nothing happens. Going into the shooting phase, for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 2, we will begin with this squad of 10 pink horrors, and they will fire everything that they have into this squad of 3 Necron warriors. All 10 of the pink horrors are within 18-inch range. 20 shots with their coruscating flames, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, thanks to the Demon Prince nearby. Getting 10 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, getting 2 more hits for 12 hits total. Strength 3 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 5s, but getting to add 1 to wound rolls, so actually wounding on 4s. And getting an absolutely horrible roll, only 3 wounds, and without flickering flames it would have been only 1 wound. No AP, so 4 up armor saves. Passing 1, but failing 2. So 2 more Necron warriors will go down, leaving only 1 left alive in the squad. Finally, this squad of 10 pink horrors will fire their coruscating flames into the squad of 6 Necron warriors. 20 shots hitting on 4s, getting a bad roll of only 7 hits. Strength 3 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 5s. Once again, getting 3 wounds. No AP, so 3 4-up armor saves. Rolling triple 1s, failing all 3. So 3 Necron warriors will go down. Going into the assault phase, we have 3 charges to declare, first of which is the squad of 4 Screamers charging into the Ghost Ark. The second charge will be Kairos Fateweaver charging into the Ghost Ark. And the third and final charge will be this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings, the one with 5 wounds, charging into the squad of Immortals. And we will resolve them in reverse order, so beginning with the Demon Prince. There are 6 Immortals left alive, with their Overwatch 12 shots hitting on 6s, getting 2 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, and failing to wound. And here's the charge range, getting 10 inches. So the Demon Prince will make it in, even though he did technically have to charge through a crater. The 8 inches after the -2 from the crater was still more than enough to make it within an inch. Now Kairos will attempt to make his charge against the Ghost Ark, and we will resolve the Overwatch from the Ghost Ark. 20 shots from the 2 Gauze Flare Rays, hitting on 6s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. 1 4-up invulnerable save, which passes. And here's the charge range, getting 12 inches. And the fully healthy Kairos Fateweaver is now locked in combat with the Ghost Ark. Now we will finally resolve the Screamers into the Ghost Ark. No more Overwatch since the Ghost Ark is now locked in combat, so here's the charge range, getting 4 inches. And the Screamers did not have to charge through a crater, so all 4 will make it in. So we will begin with Locus of Trickery. Rolling 2 dice, take away the highest. Hit rolls of 3 will not count. So we will begin with the Screamers attacking the Ghost Ark. 12 attacks from their Lamprey bites, hitting on 4s, getting 8 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, getting 7 wounds. -3 AP, so no armor save from the Ghost Ark. They are 2 damage apiece, however, so thanks to Quantum Shielding on rolls of 1, they are ignored. And of course ignoring 3, so only 4 will go through at 2 damage apiece, which is 8 damage total. So this Ghost Ark will fall from 10 wounds down to 2 left. And now Kairos Fateweaver will resolve his attacks onto the Ghost Ark. 5 attacks with the Staff of Tomorrow, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s. Wow, rolling triple 1s, getting only 1 wound. -3 AP, so no armor save on the Ghost Ark, but it will do D6 damage. Rolling a 1, so only doing 1 damage, but that does mean that Quantum Shielding cannot attempt to ignore it. So this Ghost Ark will fall from 2 wounds down to 1 left. Now we will resolve this Demon Prince of Tzeentch onto the Immortals. 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 6 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 7th hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3, getting an absolutely awful roll of only 2 wounds out of 7 hits when wounding on 3s. -2 AP, so 2 5-up armor saves, and passing 1 of those, only failing 1. So one more immortal will go down. So now that all of the charging units have gone, we will now resolve the non-charging units, beginning with the squad of immortals, which will pile in. And now all 5 of the immortals will fight. 1 attack piece for 5 attacks total, hitting on 3s. Getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 5. Getting 1 wound. 1 3-up armor save, which passes. Finally, this Ghost Arc will resolve its attacks and it will place its attacks onto the Screamers. 1 attack now that he's down to 1 wound, hitting on a 6, and it fails to hit. Going into the morale phase for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 2, we will begin with this squad of Necron warriors, which lost 5 models this turn. They have a leadership of 10, so they could fail on a 6. So here's their morale check roll. And they roll a 1, so they pass and nothing happens. Next, this Necron warrior squad lost 9 models this turn, and they have a leadership of 10, so they need a 1 to pass. On a 2-up, the last model is removed. And here's the roll, and they roll a 5, so the last warrior from that squad is wiped out, and so is the squad. And finally, this squad of immortals lost 5 models this turn, so with their leadership of 10, they will pass on anything other than a 6. If they roll a 6, 1 more model is removed. And here's the roll, and they roll a 3, so nothing happens. So now taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch did successfully complete Hold the Line for 1 victory point. They also completed Mission Critical Objective 4 for 1 victory point, and they are now 1 turn into defending Objective 6, so they will hold on to that tactical objective card. And so at the end of Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 2, we currently have a score of 2 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch and 3 victory points for the Necrons. Going into Necrons turn 3, a reminder that the Necrons have 0 command points available, and the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch also have 0 command points available. At the beginning of their turn, the Necrons drew 3 new tactical objective cards because they are holding 3 objective markers, and they drew Defend Objective 6, score 2 victory points if you control Objective Marker 6 at the end of 2 consecutive turns, Endless Legions. Whilst this tactical objective is active, keep a tally of the total number of successful reanimation protocol rolls you make, score 1 victory point if the tally reaches 10. And Slaughter the Living, score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy unit was completely destroyed during this turn. And Objective Marker 6 is this one right here, currently being held by a Lord of Change and a Demon Prince of Tzeentch. So at the beginning of the turn, thanks to Living Metal, this Ghost Arc will go back up from 8 wounds to 9, and also thanks to Living Metal, this Annihilation Barge will go back up from 5 wounds to 6. We will also need to resolve Reanimation Protocol for this squad of Necron Warriors, which is down to 3 models. They have 7 models to roll for. Looking for 5-ups, getting 3 out of 7, so 3 models will come back. So this squad is now back up to 6 models. This squad of Immortals, which is down to 5 models, will also have to resolve reanimation protocols, and they have 5 models to roll for. Looking for 5-ups, and failing to get any, so no more Immortals will come back. Going into the movement phase, this squad of Necron Warriors will march up the board up to 5 inches. And they will move like so. Because of the gap in between these two 2-foot by 2-foot sections, this model refuses to stand up on that gap, and so because of that, he is laying down, but he should be standing up right about here, just over an inch away from the iridescent horror. This Ghost Arc will remain still. This squad of 10 Necron Warriors is going to reposition a couple of inches, and they will finish their movement like so. This squad of 5 Immortals is now going to fall back out of combat with the Demon Prince, and they will finish like so. This Annihilation Barge, the silver one, is going to move a few inches up the board, and he will finish his movement like so. This Annihilation Barge will also move a few inches up the board, right to there. I also forgot this at the beginning of the turn, but this Ghost Arc, who is down to 1 wound thanks to Living Metal, will go back up to 2 wounds. And he will also fall back out of combat a couple of inches, right to there. Finally, this Night Scythe will pivot up to 90 degrees to its left and move up the board at least 20 inches, but no more than 60. And it will finish its movement right here. Going into the shooting phase for Necrons turn 3, we will begin with this squad of 10 Necron Warriors firing everything that they have into this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings in rapid fire range. 20 shots, hitting on 3s, getting only 9 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s. Getting 2 wounds. -1 AP means 2 4-up armor saves, failing both. So this Demon Prince will fall from 5 wounds down to 3. This Night Scythe is going to fire everything that it has into this squad of 10 pink horrors. 8 shots from the 2 Tesla Destructors, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. But 2 of them are Tesla, so actually getting 8 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 8 wounds. 8, 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 5 and failing 3. So 3 pink horrors will be killed off. Next, the Ghost Arc that's down to 2 wounds will fire everything that it has into this squad of pink horrors. 20 shots with the 2 Gauze Flare Arrays, hitting on 5s now that he's down to 2 wounds, getting 6 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 3 and failing 1. So 1 more pink horror will go down. Next, the Silver Annihilation Barge will fire everything that he has into the squad of pink horrors. Starting with the 3 shots from the Gauze Cannon, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. 2 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing both. 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 3s, getting 6 hits, but 2 of them are 6s for Tesla, so actually getting 10 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 8 wounds. 8, 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 5 and failing 3. So 3 more pink horrors will go down. Next, the Black Annihilation Barge will fire everything that it has into this squad of pink horrors. Starting with the 3 shots from the Gauze Cannon, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 3 wounds. 3 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing 1 but failing 2. So 2 pink horrors will go down, leaving just the Iridescent Horror alive. And now for the 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, no Tesla. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. 2 4 up and vulnerable saves, passing both. And because that 1 pink horror squad is now guaranteed to die in the morale phase because Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have no more command points left to use, the Necrons are going to change their plan a little bit and have both the Black Ghost Arc and this squad of 6 Necron warriors fire everything they have into the Lord of Change. But we will first begin with the warriors. Originally, they were going to fire into the pink horrors in order to try to cause them to lose enough models to fail a morale check, but that won't be necessary anymore. So, 12 shots from the Necron warriors with their Gauze Flares, hitting on 3s, getting 8 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds, 4 fails, and 1 cocked dice. And here's the reroll on the cocked dice, failing to wound. 3 up and vulnerable saves, passing all 3. And now for the Black Ghost Arc, firing everything that it has into the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword, 20 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 14 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 7 wounds. 7 3 up and vulnerable saves, failing 4 of them, passing only 3. So the Lord Change with Baleful Sword will fall from 8 wounds down to 4 left. Going into the assault phase, there is just 1 charge to declare, which will be this squad of 6 Necron warriors charging into the Lord of Change. No Overwatch, so here's the charge distance, getting 7 inches. And they will finish their charge like so. Going into the fight phase, we need to roll 2 dice, taking away the highest for Locus of Trickery, so hit rolls of 2 will not count, and that does not matter. We will first resolve the charging warriors' attacks onto the Lord of Change, and then we will resolve the Lord of Change's attacks back. 6 attacks from the warriors, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 3 wounds. 3 up and vulnerable saves, failing all 3. So this Lord of Change will fall from 4 wounds down to just 1 left. So the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will attack back with only 3 attacks now that he's down to 1 wound, and he will use his Staff of Tzeentch. So 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, getting 3 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. And they are -3 apiece, the warriors will not get a save. So 3 Necron warriors will be killed off. So now going into the morale phase, this squad of Necron warriors lost 3 models this turn, but they have leadership of 10, so it's impossible for them to fail. This squad of pink horrors lost 9 models this turn, and they only have leadership of 7. They are not within 6 inches of a greater demon, so they will automatically fail their morale check, and the iridescent horror will be killed off, which will wipe out that squad. So now taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Necrons have not yet begun to defend objective 6. For Endless Legions, they currently have successfully made 3 reanimation protocol rolls out of 10, and they did completely destroy that pink horror squad to get 1 victory point for Slaughter the Living. And at this point, they will throw Defend Objective 6 away. And so at the end of Necrons Turn 3, we currently have a score of 4 victory points for the Necrons and 2 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch. Going into Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Turn 3, a reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have 0 command points available, and the Necrons also have 0 command points available. A reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch held on to the tactical objective card Defend Objective 6 from the previous turn, and the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are currently holding 2 objective markers, which means they drew 2 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Defend Objective 3, score 2 victory points if you control objective marker 3 at the end of 2 consecutive turns, and Kingslayer, score D3 victory points if your opponent's Warlord has been destroyed during this or any previous turn. And objective marker 6 is this one right here, currently being held by a Demon Prince of Tzeentch and a Lord of Change. And objective marker 3 is this one right here, currently not being held by anyone. Going into the movement phase, this squad of Screamers is going to move up the board up to 16 inches. And they will finish their movement like so. Next, Kairos Fateweaver is going to move down the board back towards his own deployment zone up to 12 inches, and he will also declare an advance. And here's his advance roll, rolling just 1 additional inch for up to 13 inches of total movement. And he will finish his movement right here, and he is now within 3 inches of the center of objective marker 3. Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstav is going to move up to 8 inches up the board. And the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery will finish its movement right there. Next, this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings is going to move up to 12 inches up the board. And he will finish his movement right there. Next, this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings will move up to 12 inches up the board. And he will finish his movement right there. The Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe will remain locked in combat with this squad of 3 Necron warriors. This squad of pink horrors is going to move backwards down the board up to 6 inches towards their own deployment zone to better situate themselves around objective marker 4. And they will finish their movement like so. Going into the psychic phase for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Turn 3, we will begin with Kairos Fateweaver attempting to manifest Gaze of Fate. And Gaze of Fate has a warp charge value of 6, and it passes with a 10 thanks to the +2 from the psychic test bonus, so Tzeentch will have 1 free reroll later this turn. Next, we will have this squad of 10 pink horrors attempt to manifest Smite onto this squad of 3 Necron warriors, using only 1 dice, looking for a 5 or a 6, and it fails with a 3, so nothing happens. Next, this Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe will attempt to manifest Smite onto the squad of 3 Necron warriors, and he will also attempt to manifest Boon of Change onto himself. Starting with Smite, which now has a warp charge value of 6, and it passes with a 6. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So 2 Necron warriors will go down. Now for Boon of Change onto himself, which has a warp charge value of 7. And it passes with an 8. So rolling a D3 on the table, rolling a 2, which is Mystic Strength plus 1 Strength. So until the start of the next Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Psychic phase, the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will be a base strength of 7 instead of 6. Next, this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings, the one that's down to 1 wound, will attempt to manifest Smite onto the squad of 5 Immortals. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 7, and it passes with an 11. So we'll do D6 mortal wounds, and it will do just 1 mortal wound. But Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are going to use their 1 reroll thanks to Gaze of Fate to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll on the D6, and it will do 6 mortal wounds, which will wipe out that squad of Immortals. So the 5 remaining Immortals are killed off. Next, the other Demon Prince of Tzeentch with Wings, the one that's down to 3 wounds, will attempt to manifest Smite onto the squad of 10 Necron warriors in front of them. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 8, and it fails with a 7. so nothing happens. Now Kairos Fateweaver will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Ghost Ark in front of him, and Smite now has a warp charge value of 9, and it fails with a double 1, which of course is a Perils, so it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds to Kairos. So Kairos Fateweaver will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 14. So now for his third psychic power, Kairos Fateweaver will attempt to manifest Infernal Gateway onto the Ghost Ark. And Infernal Gateway has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with a 12. So it will do D6 mortal wounds to the Ghost Ark, which will finish it off, and it will also do D6 mortal wounds to Kairos because he's within 3 inches, and he will only take 1 mortal wound. Does the Ghost Ark explode on a 6? And it does not. So Kairos will take his 1 mortal wound, going from 14 wounds down to 13, and this Ghost Ark is finished off. Finally, the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff is going to attempt to manifest both Smite and Bolt of Change onto this squad of 10 Necron warriors. Beginning with Smite, which now has a warp charge value of 10, and it passes with a 12, thanks to the +1 from the Psychic Test bonus and +1 from the Everstaff. So it will do D6 mortal wounds, and it will do just 1 mortal wound. So 1 Necron warrior will go down. And now for Bolt of Change, which has a warp charge value of 8, and that passes with an 8 thanks to the +1 from the Psychic Test bonus. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. So 3 more warriors will go down. Going into the shooting phase, this squad of 10 pink horrors are all within 18-inch range, and so they will all fire their coruscating flames into this black Ghost Ark. 20 shots hitting on 4s, getting 9 hits and 1 cocked dice. And here's the reroll on the cocked dice, getting a 10th hit. Strength 3 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 6s, getting 1 wound. No AP, so 1 4-up armor save, which passes. Going into the assault phase for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch, turn 3, we have 3 charges to declare. First of which is the squad of 4 Screamers will declare charge into the Black Annihilation Barge. Charge number 2 will be the Demon Prince with 1 wound left, charging into the squad of 6 Necron warriors. And the third charge will be the Demon Prince with 3 wounds left, charging into the squad of 6 Necron warriors. And we will do them in reverse order, beginning with the Demon Prince with 3 wounds left. 12 shots from Overwatch from the Necron warriors and their gauze flares, hitting on 6s, failing to hit. And here's the charge range, getting 4 inches. And he will finish his charge like so. Now for the charge from the Demon Prince with 1 wound left. No Overwatch anymore, so here's the charge range, getting 7 inches. And that will definitely not be enough, so that is a failed charge. Finally, the Screamers into the Black Annihilation Barge. Starting with the Overwatch from the gauze cannon, 3 shots hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 3. And it wounds. 1 4-up invulnerable save, which passes. 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 6s, failing to hit. No Tesla. And here's the charge range, getting 8 inches, more than enough. And the 4 Screamers will make it in like so. 1 is underneath the ruin right here. So going into the fight phase, we will begin by rolling for the Locust of Trickery, rolling 2 dice, take away the highest. Hit rolls of 1 will not count. So first, we will resolve the attacks from the squad of 4 Screamers onto this Annihilation Barge. 12 attacks with their Lamprey Bites, hitting on 4s, getting 7 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so no armor save from the Annihilation Barge, but they are 2 damage piece, so rolls of 1 will activate the Quantum Shielding, and failing to save any of them with the Quantum Shielding, so that will do 6 damage total. Does the Annihilation Barge explode on a 6? And it does not, which means that the Annihilation Barge will lose its last 6 wounds and be killed off. And the Screamers will not consolidate. And now this Demon Prince will place its attacks onto the warriors. 7 attacks with the 2 sets of Malefic Talons onto the warriors, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 6 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 7th hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 5 6-up armor saves, failing all 5. Now going into units that did not charge, beginning with the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch, we will resolve the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword onto the lone Necron warrior. 3 attacks base now that he's down to 1 wound with his Baleful Sword, hitting on 3s. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2. And it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so no armor save. So this lone Necron warrior is killed off. and its squad is finished off. So going into the morale phase, for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch, turn 3, this squad of Necron warriors lost 9 models this turn, and they have a leadership of 10, so they need a 1 to pass. On a 2-up, they fail, and the last model is removed. And here's the roll. They roll a 5, so they fail, and the last model is removed. So this Necron warrior is killed off, and that squad of Necron warriors is now wiped out. So taking a look at the tactical objective cards, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have now successfully finished defending Objective 6 for 2 victory points. They are now 1 turn into defending Objective 3, and they have not yet completed Kingslayer, but they will hold on to both of these. And so at the end of Chaos Demons of Tzeentch, turn 3, we currently have a score of 4 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch and 4 victory points for the Necrons. Going into Necrons turn 4, a reminder that the Necrons have 0 command points available, and the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch also have 0 command points available. A reminder that the Necrons held on to the tactical objective card, Endless Legions, from the previous turn, which is now impossible to achieve because the Necrons no longer have any units left alive that have the reanimation protocols rule. And the Necrons are currently holding 2 objective markers, and so they drew 2 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Mission Critical Objective. When this tactical objective is generated, roll a d6, score 1 victory point if you control the corresponding objective marker. If the corresponding objective marker was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn, and you controlled it at the end of your turn, score d3 victory points instead. And here's the roll for Mission Critical Objective, rolling a 2, and Assassinate. Score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy character was destroyed during this turn. If 3 or more enemy characters were destroyed during your turn, score d3 victory points instead. And objective marker 2 is this one right here, which is now currently being held by a Demon Prince of Tzeentch. So going into the movement phase for Necron's turn 4, this Ghost Arc will remain still, and it also regenerates 1 lost wound thanks to living metal, going from 9 up to 10. This Cryptek is going to move a couple of inches to make sure that he stays within 3 inches of the center of objective marker 1, but so that he can get within 12 inches of the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with 3 wounds left. And he will finish his movement right there. This Annihilation Barge is going to move back a few inches, right to there. Finally, this Night Scythe is going to pivot up to 90 degrees to its left and move up the board at least 20 inches but no more than 60, and it will finish its movement like so. Going into the shooting phase, we will begin with this Cryptek firing its Staff of Light into the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with 3 wounds left. 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, failing to wound. This Ghost Arc is now going to fire everything that it has into the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. 20 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 14 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 5s, getting 4 wounds. 4 3-up and vulnerable saves, passing 3 and failing 1. And so because of that, the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword is going to use his once per game reroll thanks to the Impossible Robe in order to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll, and it passes with a 3, so the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword remains alive. Next, this Annihilation Barge will fire everything that it has into the squad of 4 Screamers. Starting with the Gauze Cannon, 3 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. 2 4-up and vulnerable saves, failing both. And they do D3 damage apiece, so they have to be done separately. The first strike will do just 1 damage, which means the second strike will simply finish off one of the Screamers. So 1 Screamer will go down. Now for 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits, no Tesla. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. 3 4-up and vulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So 1 more Screamer will fall from 2 wounds down to 1. Finally, this Night Scythe will fire everything that it has into the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery. 8 shots from the 2 Tesla Destructors, hitting on 3s, getting 7 hits, and 2 of them are Tesla, so actually getting 11 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 7 means wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds. 3 4-up and vulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstab will fall from 5 wounds down to 4. Going into the assault phase, in an effort to finish off the Lord of Change, especially since he's used his once per game reroll, the Ghost Ark will declare a charge into the Lord of Change. Lord of Change has no Overwatch, and the Ghost Ark is within 2 inches, so he will automatically make it in. So going into the fight phase, we first have to resolve the Locust of Trickery from Tzeentch, rolling 2 dice, take away the highest. Hit rolls of 4 will not count, but that won't matter because the Ghost Ark only hits on 6s. So starting with the Ghost Ark, 3 attacks base, hitting on 6s, failing to hit. And now 3 attacks back from the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword. He will use the Staff of Tzeentch, so hitting on 2s, getting 3 hits. Strength 7, thanks to the Boon of Change, against Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 2 6-up armor saves, and passing both, so nothing happens. Going to the morale phase, this squad of Screamers lost 1 model this turn, but they have a leadership of 7, so it's impossible for them to fail a morale check after only losing 1 model. Taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Necrons failed to complete Endless Legions, they failed to complete Mission Critical Objective 2, and they failed to complete Assassinate. And at this point, they will throw Endless Legions away. And so, at the end of Necrons Turn, we currently have a score of 4 victory points for the Necrons and 4 victory points for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch. Going into Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Turn 4, a reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have 0 command points available, and the Necrons also have 0 command points available. A reminder that the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch held on to the tactical objective cards Defend Objective 3 and Kingslayer from the previous turn, and because the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch are currently controlling 4 objective markers, they get to draw 4 new tactical objective cards, and so they drew the Glory of Khorne. Score 1 victory point if an enemy character was destroyed during this turn. If an enemy character was destroyed by one of your Khorne demon units during this turn, score D3 victory points instead. Assassinate, score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy character was destroyed during this turn. If 3 or more enemy characters were destroyed during this turn, score D3 victory points instead. No prisoners, score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during your turn. If between 3 and 5 enemy units were destroyed during your turn, score D3 victory points instead. If 6 or more enemy units were destroyed during your turn, score D3 plus 3 victory points instead. And Supremacy, score D3 victory points if you control any 3 objective markers at the end of your turn. So going into the movement phase, for Chaos Demons of Tzeentch Turn 4, this Lord of Change with Baleful Sword and the Impossible Robe will remain locked in combat with the Ghost Ark. This squad of Pink Horrors will remain still. This Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings is going to move up to 12 inches towards the Cryptek, and he will finish his movement right there. This squad of 3 Screamers is going to move up the board up to 16 inches to get closer to Objective Marker 5 and the Silver Annihilation Barge, and they will finish their movement like so. Kairos Fateweaver can move up to 12 inches, but he will just move back a few inches to get further back into their deployment zone and to get a better sight line onto the Silver Night Scythe. And he will finish his movement right there, still holding onto Objective Marker 3. This Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings is now going to move 12 inches back down the board towards the Silver Night Scythe, and he will finish his movement right there. Finally, the Lord of Change with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstab is going to move 6 inches down the board towards the Silver Night Scythe, and it will finish its movement right there. Going into the Psychic phase, we will begin with this squad of Pink Horrors, which will attempt to manifest Smite onto this Black Ghost Ark. Rolling just 1 dice, looking for a 5 or 6, and getting it with a 5, so Smite will go off. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. So the Ghost Ark will fall from 10 wounds down to 7. Next, we will do the Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings over here, attempting to manifest Smite onto the Silver Night Scythe. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 6, and it passes with a 10. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. So the Night Scythe will fall from 12 starting wounds down to 9. Now this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Cryptek. Smite now has a warp charge value of 7, and it passes with a 10. So we'll do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. So the Cryptek will fall from 4 starting wounds down to 1. Next, the Lord of Change with Baleful Sword will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Ghost Ark. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with an 11. And so it will do D6 mortal wounds, and it will do 6 mortal wounds. So this Ghost Ark will now fall from 7 wounds down to 1. And because the Ghost Ark only has 1 wound left, The Lord of Change is now going to attempt to sacrifice itself and manifest Infernal Gateway onto the Ghost Ark. An Infernal Gateway has a warp charge value of 8, which also passes with an 11, which means it will do D3 mortal wounds to the Ghost Ark and also to any units within 3 inches of the Ghost Ark. So both the Ghost Ark and the Lord of Change will be killed off. Does the Ghost Ark explode on a 6? And it does, but since the Lord of Change is already killed off from its own psychic power, the explosion won't do anything. So the Lord of Change will lose its last wound and be killed off, and the Ghost Ark will also lose its last wound and be killed off. So now, the Lord of Change, with Rod of Sorcery and the Everstaff, will attempt to manifest both Smite and Bolt of Change onto the Silver Night Scythe. Beginning with Smite, and Smite now has a warp charge value of 9, and it passes with a 10. And actually with an 11 thanks to +1 from the Everstaff. So we'll do D6 mortal wounds, and it will do 6 mortal wounds. So the Night Scythe will fall from 9 wounds down to 3. Now for Bolt of Change, which has a warp charge value of 8, and it passes with a 10. No more Psychic Test bonus now that he's down to 4 wounds, and it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds, which is enough to finish off the Night Scythe. So does it explode on a 6? And it does not. So this Night Scythe will lose its last 3 wounds and be killed off. And because the last Night Scythe was killed off, that means that the Overlord, who is still on the Tomb World, is automatically slain because he no longer has a way to make it onto the table. So that will be Slay the Warlord for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch. Going into the Assault phase, we have 2 charges to declare, first of which is this Demon Prince of Tzeentch with wings declaring a charge onto the Cryptek, and secondly, this squad of 3 Screamers declaring a charge onto the Annihilation Barge. And we will begin with the Screamers. Overwatch from the Gauss Cannon first, 3 shots hitting on 6s, failing to hit. 8 shots from the Twin Tesla Destructor, getting no hits and 1 cocked dice, looking for 6s. And here's the reroll on the cocked dice, still failing to hit. Charge range from the Screamers, getting 10 inches. So they will all make it in. Now for the charge from the Demon Prince onto the Cryptek. 3 shots from the Staff of Light, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Strength 5 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on a 5 and failing to wound. And here's the charge range, getting 7 inches. And the Demon Prince is now locked in combat with the Cryptek. Going into the fight phase, we will first resolve the Demon Prince against the Cryptek. Starting with Locus of Trickery, rolling 2 dice, taking away the highest. Hit rolls of 2 will not count. So 7 attacks from the 2 sets of Malefic Talons on the Demon Prince, attacking the Cryptek, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 7 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. Minus 2 AP means 3 6-up armor saves, passing 1 but failing 2. And even though they're 2 damage apiece, that doesn't matter because the Cryptek only has 1 wound left, and so the Cryptek is killed off. And so now for the last charging unit, which is the Screamers, placing their attacks onto the Annihilation Barge. 3 attacks apiece from the Screamers with their Lamprey Bites means 9 attacks total, hitting on 4s, getting 5 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6, wounding on 4s, getting 4 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so no armor save from the Annihilation Barge, but thanks to Quantum Shielding, can ignore on 1s, and failing to ignore. So that is 8 damage that goes through. And Annihilation Barges only have 8 starting wounds to begin with, so that Annihilation Barge is finished off. Does it explode on a 6? And it does not. And so this Annihilation Barge is killed off and removed. And with that, the Necrons are completely tabled. So the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch automatically win the game. But just for fun, let's take a quick look at the tactical objective cards. And the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch did finish successfully defending Objective 3 for 2 victory points. They did complete Kingslayer, thanks to destroying the Night Scythe, which killed the Overlord inside on the Tomb World. So they will get D3 victory points for Kingslayer. And here's the roll for that, getting 3 victory points, of course. They did successfully complete the Glory of Khorne, thanks to the Demon Prince of Tzeentch killing the Cryptek. So that is worth 1 victory point. They also successfully completed Assassinate for 1 victory point. They completed No Prisoners, and they killed 5 units in total, including the Overlord being slain from the Tomb World, so that is worth D3 victory points. So here's the roll for that. Of course, getting another 3 victory points. And finally, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch did successfully complete Supremacy, because they are holding at least 3 objective markers. In fact, they are currently holding 5. So almost all of them. But that's worth another D3, and it's worth just 1. And also, of course, this turn, Chaos Demons of Tzeentch did successfully complete Slay the Warlord, so they get 1 victory point for that, and thanks to the Demon Prince of Tzeentch, that killed the Cryptek, they are also holding Line Breakers. They get 1 additional victory point for that as well. And so just a final recap, at the end of the game, at the end of Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 4, we have a major victory for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch thanks to a tabling, and we have a final score in terms of victory points, not that that actually really matters, of 4 victory points for the Necrons and 17 for the Chaos Demons of Tzeentch. And so now that the game is over, and it's been announced that Chaos Demons of Tzeentch have a major victory through tabling, at the end of Chaos Demons of Tzeentch turn 4, I can go over 1 or 2 of my final thoughts on this game. And there's not really much to say since it was a tabling. The game kind of spoke for itself. I don't have to explain why there was a concession this time, but I do want to talk for a brief moment about how awful the dice rolls were for the majority of this game up until that last player turn. Chaos Demons of Tzeentch finally pulled it together at the end to finish off the Necrons, but up until that point, it was awful. Absolutely terrible dice rolling. I don't think I've seen that many ones in a game before. At least not one that I've played. But oh my goodness, the Necrons couldn't finish anything off, and other than a few psychic powers, Tzeentch couldn't do anything at all. Just terrible, terrible dice rolling. But I hope that the terrible dice rolling wasn't too frustrating to watch. It was a pretty close game all the way up there till the end. I mean, through the end of Necrons turn 4, the score was tied at 4 victory points apiece. But that just shows how quickly a game can run away, because it went from 4-4 in 1 player turn to then being 17-4. And that's a pretty big difference. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.